The Academy of the Dumb Marks podcast presents the 2021 year-end review awards in professional wrestling based on the following categories.
Okay. We have 4 categories for the 2020 year in review. We have Match of the Year, Feud of the Year, Male Wrestler of the Year, and Female Wrestler of the Year.
All right. Well, let's see. Where do we want to start with? Well, for me, 2021 in whole, for me, I'll say 2021 was the year of the female wrestler. If you look back, in my opinion, some of the biggest moments from this year in pro wrestling involved the women, whether it was Sasha and Bianca at WrestleMania main eventing, whether it was Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker at St. Patrick's Day. I forget what they titled that one. I don't want to say Massacre because it wasn't St. Patrick's Day Massacre, but whatever they titled that special, where they had the lights out match. Deonna Purrazza's run throughout the year. You had NWA's Empower show, which was one of the better pay-per-views of the year across the board throughout any company. So for me, this year for me in pro wrestling was all about the women, which I'm glad to see. I enjoyed the women's wrestling a little bit more than the men this year. And some of the bigger stars out of this year were women. When you get it, when you break down and look at the impact across the board, at least in my opinion. So why don't we kick off?
Say that for a few years now. I think women just been the dominant storytelling.
So then with all that being said, let's kick off. Let's go with your 2021 Female Wrestler of the Year award. So Donald, who do you have for 2021's Female Wrestler of the Year?
I have Britt Baker. I have her because I think she elevated AEW's women's roster with her being hurt and her talking and everything. And she just made it a lot better. Like she raised the level of them. And not actually did she hold that down the women's division. I thought she held AEW down for those couple months there. For
as much as Sheeta led them through the pandemic, right? Britt just took the ball from her when she beat her for the title and has just continued the momentum that Sheeta started, in my opinion. Yeah, absolutely crushed it. Really burst on like a tidal wave this year, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she crushed everything she's been involved in. From the matches, like I said, with her and Thunder Rosa to the promo segment with her and Ruby Soho, Britt has established herself as a top name across the board in pro wrestling. And that, coming into AEW when they started, you thought Britt could be the woman to be the main staple, the main foundational block. But we didn't get it right away from her. You know what I mean?
Not at all.
Chris, you say it all the time. The best thing that happened to her was her getting hurt.
Absolutely.
Just like with Stone Cold when he got hurt and came into ECW and was cutting those promos and that before he left to go to WWE. That really helped catapult and give Austin the confidence that he needed. So when he got into WWE, that you ended up getting the Austin 316 and the rocket ship that got attached to him. And I think Britt was the same way with getting injured and her being able to talk and get people invested in her from a character standpoint.
How many times whenever you get injured, do they just take you off of TV? Once you're injured, you're gone until you come back. So her sticking around on TV and doing what she could do, it was the best thing for her. It got her over.
I mean, we see, and this is a little different comparison because Bayley to me was already established, but she's been off TV since she's been hurt.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
AEW has continued to leave wrestlers that are injured on their program that are going to be big parts of the company. You see it with Ricky Starks, right?
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't gone away since he got hurt, and Britt's the same way. So I think it does a lot for the character. It gets people more invested, and then whenever they do come back to the ring, it just helps you connect even more once they get back in there and start wrestling again. So Britt's a hell of a choice. I'm not mad at that for female wrestler of the year. There, I'm okay with that one. Jay, what do you got?
Bianca Belair.
Okay.
Rumble win, WrestleMania win. Hasn't taken too many pins this year.
Does the latter half of the year hurt her at all compared to some of the other women in different companies based off of like from SummerSlam through now?
Putting her with Dewdrop a little bit.
Well, they had a good match 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That was a really good match. You know, I'm not mad at that feud because I think, you know, Piper Niven can work and is good. I just think the steam and the momentum that she had, the way that whole SummerSlam thing shook out for me kind of like tainted her run this year. But the first half of the year, it's hard to argue against her being wrestler of the year based off of her first half for sure. All right. Anything else for Bianca? No. Chris, who you got?
With like Donald, the good doctor, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Yeah. I mean, she says that she's the face of the era, and just like how CM Punk kind of talks that she should be the fourth pillar of AEW. Again, I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah. Not much more we could say about Britt. You know, be interested to see how long, if she makes it a year with the belt, or if she's going to drop it soon coming up. They did announce last night on Rampage she'll be facing Riho at the Battle of the Belts on January 8th for the title. So I don't know if they put the belt back on Rio.
I don't think
they would.
So, no.
I think they also announced that Owen Hart tournament.
Memorial Cup. Yeah.
So you'll get the women's and the men's, and I'm hoping that we'll see the next person develop out of that tournament.
I got an interesting take on that, but mark that down. We can get into that when we do our predictions.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
For the January 8th episode when we come back in and give predictions for 2022 here. For me this year, it came down to three people for me, and it was Britt, Thunder Rosa, and Deonna Purrazzo were my three that I looked at as far as female wrestler of the year. Based off everything they've done, I'm gonna go with Deonna for my female wrestler of the year this year. The title reign she had an impact, what she did for that belt and that division, the quality of matches that she's put on throughout the year. Her and Thunder Rosa had arguably match of the year candidate. Her and Mickie James has been good. And then she went down to Mexico and AAA and won the Reinas de Reyes title. And we saw her come out on Final Battle for ROH to challenge Roxy for the ROH title. So we talked about Kenny Omega being the collector of belts. Deonna herself has been collecting belts throughout the year. And to me, I don't know how we always look at people that leave WWE and go, how did they miss on her? I really thought that she would be somebody that they were going to be able to make into a superstar. But I think the best thing for her and which led into this run was her getting released by them, because it caused her to step her game up and elevate herself more from her promos. The in-ring work was always there with Deonna, but the promos, she's in a groove with her character. She knows exactly who she is, where she wants to go with it, what she wants to do, how she presents herself. Her and Mickie have had a tremendous feud throughout this year. So yeah, for me, I go with Deonna, the virtuosa, as female wrestler of the year this year.
I saw that her and Mickie are going to fight in a Texas death match at Hard to Kill on January 8th. So that'll be an interesting match.
Yep. There's that, and that Impact also announced for the first time ever they're going to have a women's X Division match.
Looking forward to that.
They announced the 6 participants for that too. So, we'll get into that and break that down when we get to the 8th as well, because that card's shaping up to be a really good card to start the year off from Impact standpoint. So, All right, so that's the female wrestler of the year for 2021. Hit us up, let us know who we got right, what we got wrong, who you agree with, and who's your pick for female wrestler. And since we did the female, let's just jump over into the men here. Who would you say is your male wrestler of the year for 2021? We'll go the same rotation here. So Donald, we'll kick it off with you first.
I had two people on my mind. I had Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley. I had Bobby. I mean, I'm not picking him, but Bobby, I just like his chase for the title.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when Bobby's that angry Bobby and just running through everybody, I love that. Wasn't real thrilled about his title reign that much, and he didn't have the belt for like that long. But I am going to pick Roman Reigns. I mean, his character work. He looks so confident on the mic, being out in the ring and everything, and him just being a heel altogether. I just like everything he's doing. He's actually entertaining to me now. And that's the only reason I watch WWE is for Roman, and that's it.
So with Roman, I believe on SmackDown that last night they said 474 day reign as champion, I believe was the count as of last night. Yeah, I mean, as his shirt says, needle mover. Which was tremendous. I thought that was a tremendous shirt.
Let's say jobber, mid-carder, main eventer, Tribal Chief.
But no, yeah. I mean Roman. Yeah, Roman would be in consideration. Lashley's had an interesting year.
Mm-hmm.
You get the win at Mania. You have your run. Big E ends up taking the belt. I think the momentum for Lashley, based off of what they've done in the past couple of weeks, is going to lead into a big 2022. But we're going to get babyface Lashley, from what I see, and based off of what they did, like Monday night's performance,
red pants and babyface.
I mean, but Monday night's performance, that whole show was set up as him as a babyface. You don't stack the odds and make a heel go through 3 matches in one show. Like, that's not something a heel does.
Nah.
You know what I mean? Even though he fought Big E and Big E's a babyface champ, but the story to me was that that's something that you do for a babyface to get them to come, to overcome the odds and get there at the end.
That was Kofi Mania.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with how they did it, and I feel like the title match on the Raw side of things for day one is completely overbooked and a 4-man. Like, it just, I get it from that standpoint, but his performance Monday night was one of the more impressive things that I've seen, just from the standpoint of, like, to get yourself up and down from a adrenaline standpoint, from all that, to do it throughout the night in 3 separate matches, and all 3 matches were good. The stories were different in each match.
You figure once you cool down, you're done.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like,
once you sit down, it's over.
Yeah, so it wasn't like Hangman and Danielson, who went 60 minutes straight. Like, he's going 3 different times a night. So yeah, I was super impressed with his performance on Monday night, and that to me was the best part of Raw on Monday was his performance and how he handled that. And now we have a 4-way at day one.
Yeah, I'm going with Roman Reigns too. Really, the reason I tune in.
I thought the layers to the story last night were good. They're continuing to build on it. I tweeted out after it happened. I said, was Heyman really fired, or is this a bloodline swerve to sucker Brock in? But that's good that's good that you have those questions, because you mean they're telling it and they're making you think and getting invested and trying to figure out where they're going with it and how's it all going to play out. And Heyman is he's just unbelievable. Like, he didn't, the first 5 minutes of that segment, he didn't say one word, and he was the MVP just on facials alone. Him looking up like it is. And then when Then when Roman brings him in for the hug,
Yeah.
you can hear Heyman. I love you, my tribal chief. I was like, just
You can ask these guys. I hated Paul Heyman for years.
He did. He did.
He grew on me.
I mean, for as impressive and as much as entertaining Roman has been throughout this run, you could say like Heyman revitalized himself too.
Yes. Yeah.
With his presentation and what he's done, and he's been a breath of fresh air too. Like when they first showed them two sitting next to each other way back when, I'm like, is this really gonna work? Like, where's the fit? And them together, they've knocked it out of the park the entire time they've been together. So we'll see how the story plays out over the next couple of weeks and where we go from here. But last night I was very entertained by the main event segment there with them two in it. Chris, who you got?
I came down to two people. The two that I, from my male wrestler of the year, was between Josh Alexander and Bryan Danielson. And I decided to go with, for the way he left WWE and the impact he's had in AEW, I got to go with Bryan Danielson for the male wrestler of the year. I thought he had a great feud. I thought he had a great storytelling, great feud to leave WWE, getting put back in the main event. Loser leaves town type match, career-ending match that he had. And then he's had, I think I saw that he's had 34 matches this year, and 17 that he's had in AEW. He's wrestled somebody different each time. And he's had some amazing matches in AEW and had some good matches in WWE towards the end of his run. So got to give it to my boy.
Yeah, Danielson, that's you main event WrestleMania night 2. You leave that company and then you're in the main event multiple times already in AEW in your new company with, like you said, different opponents and arguably match of the year. We'll get into this, but you could have 1 through 5 just of Danielson matches in AEW that could be up there for match of the year based off of what he's done. I mean, Wednesday night, him and Hangman, Ric Flair tweeted out, afterwards, I've been through so many 60-minute Iron Man matches in my life. I forget most of them, but you guys,
Flair was the king of the Broadway.
I mean, that 60-minute match Wednesday night was everything that pro wrestling should be, from the way he worked it, the roller coaster, the ups and downs they took you on. It was clear who was the heel. It was clear who was the baby face. False finishes, just everything about it screamed pro wrestling. And that, to me, was a hell of a roll of the dice by Tony Khan, putting it on for an hour on TV. 5 commercial segments you had to get through. And not only did they get through it, but the rating continued to grow as the match went on. So kudos to Tony for putting something like that on, to have an hour Broadway on television. Kudos to Hangman and Danielson for delivering. I don't know if you could find 2 people better than them two to deliver that. Maybe you have Omega and Danielson deliver that, but there's not too many people that I would say, okay, go out there for an hour on TV and deliver.
The thing I liked most about that match is they didn't overuse pinfalls either. They came sporadically through the match. It wasn't like, oh, I'm trying to get the win early. It was more focused on the storytelling of that match, which is one reason why I think I prefer that match over some Iron Man matches I've watched, because in the Iron Man match, it's all about the pinfall almost too much these days.
Yeah, I think the other Iron Man match this year that stuck out to me, which I was debating on putting, was Josh and TJP from Impact. That again was another one that was just a classic, and unfortunately, not as many people saw it because it was Impact. But that one there, go out on YouTube, seek that one out, and watch that, because that was just as good as Danielson and Hangman from Wednesday night. So, yeah, Danielson, not mad at Danielson at all for Wrestler of the Year. From that standpoint, it's hard to argue based off of his body of work and what he's done. For me, I had Reigns, I had Danielson, and I had Alexander. So I had 3 out of the 4 that were mentioned so far in this segment for Wrestler of the Year. And for me, this is a little bit of a homer pick, just because prediction-wise, I kind of said this guy was going to take off last year and have a huge 2021, and he did. So I'm going with Josh Alexander for my wrestler of the year. Multiple match of the year candidates. He had an impact while he was the X Division champion. You know, that X Division carries impact it has since its inception, and it's probably the one thing that people tune in to see if they do tune in and watch Impact. And he made that belt. That belt to me with his run was even though Omega had the Impact World Title and that over the course of that run, Alexander was the guy and was the champion in Impact.
It felt a lot like Hogan in the '80s with the Intercontinental title. You know,
right.
Whoever held the Intercontinental was the guy, and Alexander made that belt prestigious and Impact there during that run.
Right. So now we get him, back on the chase again. So, looking forward for a big year from him to actually break down the door and get that title reign and actually have a run with the Impact Heavyweight Championship. So, I'm going with Josh Alexander. Any one of the guys that mentioned are definite candidates. Like, there's not too many negatives you could say about each one of those guys. Do you feel that Omega should get any type of asterisk next to his run this year based off of the injuries that he had and what he dealt with and how he was able to work given those injuries? Like, do we look back at it and go, okay, he's he's absolutely insane and unreal that he performed the way he did given everything that what we know now that he had to get fixed surgically, dealing with the vertigo, the ring spinning. Like, to think back and see some of the matches that he had dealing with what he dealt with is pretty insane. So,
especially his and Daniel Bryan's match in New York, that was an insane half-hour banger. And no, I think if you put Kenny Omega in contention for male wrestler of the year, there's an argument there. I don't think there should be an asterisk on him. I think he did the year well. He carried it. The only thing that was my biggest complaint with Kenny was they put him on the mic too much, and he just couldn't carry that.
The addition to Callis and letting Callis talk more, I felt helped him. His promo style is different, and it's just it's something that hasn't necessarily connected with with the US audience. Because Japan, like when he was in New Japan, nobody said Omega like on the microphone. Like, it didn't hurt him as much as people started saying it about him once he got on US TV and was wrestling every week and talking. So
yeah, but his promos were different over there, I feel too. It's not like he was kind of the same type. And
my thing with you expressed it better than I could is that he had that part of his game, so to speak, hasn't transitioned the way his wrestling has transitioned in front of a US audience. So like that's the only thing I think,
like a lot of the times I felt like too many of his promos on AEW went on way too long.
Yes.
It's like if he would have condensed them down maybe like 5 or less instead of being like a long-winded promo, maybe that would have helped out. Like hit more and instead of being more filler.
But yeah, Omega's the asterisk that I have for this year. I wouldn't be mad if somebody brought that because the argument can be made based off of everything he did. Hell, after he won the Impact, the title off of Moxley and went to Impact, I mean, they had their numbers on Twitch that first episode there for Omega to show up were ridiculous. From viewership standpoint, it was the highest number they've seen on Twitch.
Had to have been their best number in years.
Yeah, so I mean, from a drawing standpoint and everything else, I don't know if the and we can talk about this after we run through these categories because the Forbidden Door aspect of 2021 is an interesting thing to look back at as far as a year-end wrap up too. So we can touch on that moving forward, or towards the end of this segment here. So, all right, so that's male wrestler of the year. Let's go into feud of the year.
For me, I had feud of the year. I had Seth and Edge. To me, a feud is multiple matches, just not one. I had Kenny and Hangman as number 2, but they only fought one time, even though it was a slow burning story to get to it.
They fought twice.
Few.
They had the match when Hangman beat him, so or when Kenny beat him, so Hangman lost his title shot before he left to go on parental leave for having a baby, and then the match at the pay-per-view when Hangman won the belt back.
It tells me how much wrestling fatigue I have. I forgot all about that. but still, anyway, I go with Seth and Edge. That entertained me a little bit more than Kenny and Hangman did.
Okay.
So
I'll go Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle.
You picking Jericho and MJF?
That's picking AEW.
Yeah, that's man.
I mean,
it's a Christmas miracle up here.
Like in WWE, you don't have too many long ones. So, and then I was going to pick Hangman and Omega, but it was like off and on.
Yeah.
So,
I mean the Pinnacle Inner Circle one, and you're saying Pinnacle Inner Circle, not just Jericho MJF, right?
Yeah, no.
The faction versus faction.
Yeah, when you look at that and you look at the matches that spun off of it, between the Stadium Stampede, the Blood and Guts, then the singles matches, Wardlow, Hager in the Octagon, the tag matches, and then obviously Jericho and MJF, like that. I mean, that was majority of 2021 for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Until the last 3 months.
Yeah.
4 months. So you're talking, 7, 8, 9 month run of that feud. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that pick.
See, I can praise the other company.
Yes, you can. I'm flabbergasted over here right now.
What you drinking in that bottle?
Chris?
I'm going to go with the one that, hooked me the most, and the one that Donald kind of brought up too was Hangman and Omega. I just felt like that's especially building up to All Out before it got there. That was the storyline that hooked me the most this year. I love the build up there. I felt like the build up to Full Gear was a little weaker, but you had so much strong build this year and 2 years of build overall that you were getting there and it was worth it.
So does that the 2 year plus build for that moment, because they've been telling it since
Inception,
basically Inception, really. Does that help elevate what they did this year, even though they didn't touch as much as other feuds with other competitors? Like, does that additional equity help elevate the feud to where you put it number one?
I don't need multiple matches in a feud. I just need the good storytelling to give me that feud. Like, if they fight one time and you had good build up and the match paid off, that's all I need.
So if you just look at January to now, they did enough just in this time frame without the additional backstory for you.
That stuff from in between Double or Nothing and All Out that they did there, that did enough for me to entertain me enough that I was so in and ready for that match at All Out.
Right. I think everybody was. I mean, that was what everybody they did. I mean, it was almost like getting, having the balloon popped on you whenever it was going to be, rumors and innuendo came out that Heyman was getting pulled. He wasn't going to face Omega at All Out, and it was going to be Christian Cage. And it was like, oh, why? Like, why? And obviously, we know the reason why.
Life.
You can't be mad about life. Like,
you can't shit on that at all. It's just
but the way that they bounce back with it and have him come back as the Joker in the ladder match and come out and get the title shot that way to lead into it. Like you said, it
was fine.
I'm not mad at that.
No, and it's just like I remember whenever he came out. I mean, he was the first guy out at Double or Nothing. And that crowd ovation for him, it's just like, to me, that was the moment where it's just like, he's getting the title soon. Like, I didn't know when it was coming. You knew it was coming at some point, but it's like, whenever you felt how over he was with the crowd in that, and then once they start traveling, and that pop came every time he came out.
Right.
It's just like, he's over.
And that one,
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about these moments.
and that,
that's how you know. That's how you know that it was successful, because you're
Exactly.
getting that type of reaction. So everything that they did was how it was supposed to play out, because you're looking back at it and you're getting those reactions.
and that one match they had at Dynamite with him in the Dark Order versus the Elite, and how much the crowd was into that during their intro. And that was just the intro part.
Heyman and Omega for me was like, that was always going to be on my list for everything that we've mentioned. Roman and Brock, to me, you can't put on, because it's just been the last third of the year. It didn't span the whole year. Because if you go from like Saudi Arabia to what they're going to do moving forward, like, it just sucks when that started, because that has the potential to be Feud of the Year for 2022, even though we've seen Roman and Brock how many times now, right?
Yeah.
But it's a different iteration of it. The pages, the tables turn. You got babyface overall Brock, which is the greatest thing ever, right? Next to boombox Rock, like babyface overall Brock is absolutely tremendous.
He looked like a horror movie slasher.
Yeah. But so I had that. The other two that I had, again, because for me, 2021 was the year of women, Thunder Rosa and Britt. But they're in that situation now where it's going to be a Hangman Omega thing, where you had it, and it's like it's starting to percolate back up to where hopefully you turn the corner and you get that lead into whether it's Revolution or Double or Nothing next year, where you get the culmination with Thunder Rosa taking the title off Britt, and that'll be the multi-year long story telling there. So for me, I'm gonna go with Deonna and Mickey.
Okay.
What they've done throughout Impact as well as the NWA, the story that they've told, Deonna retiring Jazz and playing off of that, having another legend come in, the matches, the obstacles that they've put in front of each other, Mickey actually beating Deonna, getting her 10th title reign overall across different promotions. And now Deonna back on the chase to take the belt bag off of her. The whole trash bag incident brought up, like, there was just a lot of real life woven into that story between those two. And I felt like that was it was the best feud of the year in my eyes. So I'll go with Mickey and Deonna. It's
taken up the second half of the year. It started in July and is still going on to this day. So yeah, that's a good pick.
Yeah, I mean, you look at how it's impacted wrestling, because it's touched on, it was on Empower. It was, you know what I mean? So like in a year where women shine the brightest, I felt that's what kind of gave them the edge over Heyman and Omega for me, because of the impact that women had overall this year. So that's my pick there. I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the year-end wrap-up awards there for the 4 categories presented by the Academy of the Dumb Marks Podcast.
Oh, one more.
See, look, wrapping up. Running out of time. I forgot about that. Match of the year. All right, what do we got? Match of the year.
Match of the year, I have Dragunov versus Walter 2 at TakeOver. I mean, that was 22 minutes. I was perked up on my seat, was like, God damn. As a friend of ours say, Damien, God damn, dog. I mean, it was that. I mean, it was just as good as the first one.
I was gonna say you often have the sequels aren't better than the originals, and in that instance, I would probably pick the second one over the first one. Like, and granted, I watched the first one after it had happened and everybody talked about it, because I didn't follow NXT UK, so I didn't see that live real time. You know what I mean? Like, I heard the reactions, I heard the buzz, I saw the reviews, and I went back and I was like, oh, okay, now I know exactly why people talked about this match the way they talked about it. But that second one, watching that live, and that was
something.
It was something for sure.
The first match was my match of the year last year.
Mm-hmm. Same with mine too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'll go with that one.
That was definitely top 3 for me. I got to go with 1A and 1B. 1B is Sasha and Bianca, just because the match was great and the moment is still in the air. Like I can still
feel it.
Yeah.
You can still close your eyes and see their facials and them trying to compose themselves to not lose it in that moment when they're getting the standing ovation and everything else. Like we talked about it at the time, the representation, having 2 African American women in that spot, just women overall main event in that spot. Like there was a lot that went into that moment, and then they delivered on the match. It just elevated it even more.
And you said terrible build, great match.
Yeah,
that you forget about the build.
Absolutely forget about the build. But how trash it was so trash.
I haven't forgotten about the build, but the match was worth it.
I'm going.
That was that whole WrestleMania.
1A is Orton and Rollins. Not Orton and Rollins. My bad. Edge and Rollins.
Which one? Oh, which one?
Yeah.
Hell in a Cell.
Okay.
Yeah. I just really enjoyed that match. Maybe it's recency bias, but that's one I can think of off top. Yeah.
Chris?
Jason, I'm going to kind of pair off of you because everything you said about it, and it's the match that no match has topped it yet for me, and that's going to be Sasha Bianca. That was my match of the year. You guys talking about there gave me the goosebumps just thinking about it again. So, yeah.
Guess who's watching Raw or SmackDown next week?
Jay, like you, it was like 1A, 1B, 1C, right? Like I couldn't say definitively this is my one because the 3 of these I enjoyed them all the same. Donald Dragunov and Walter 2 was in my top 5. Sasha and Bianca was in my top 5. But the 3 that kind of encapsulated the year for me was Alexander and TJP, the 60-minute Iron Man match. Thunder Rosa and Britt in the Lights Out match. And then Omega and Danielson in Arthur Ashe. New York Slam. Those were my 3 that were 1A, 1B, 1C. For me, I'm going with Britt and Thunder Rosa. The things that you said about Sasha and Bianca, I had that same feeling from them too, but from a different standpoint of one, what's the forget this the saying Bully Ray says, like one win over, one got over, right? In that match, Thunder Rosa got the win and went over, but Britt got over. That was the moment for Britt. You had the Nia Jax face punch to Becky, and you get the crowd with the bloody face. Like Britt sit with the blood on her, like it was a t-shirt instantly. Like it just, that was the jumping off point that just launched Britt to me into the next level. So I'm going with Thunder Rosa and Britt for match of the year for me. All right,
year of the woman.
Yep.
It was heavy for me. Like, not that the men slacked, but for me, so many. When I was thinking back this week, just with each category, taking out the women's wrestler of the year because it was a standalone women's category, but match of the year, feud of the year, like they were just constantly hitting for women. Like I wish Sasha didn't have the time off after Mania for all that would happen, because I think her and Bianca could have carried that over, and that probably would have been feud of the year. If you run that from Mania through SummerSlam like it was supposed to be, then yeah, absolutely. I don't think they would be hard pressed to push out of that spot. But yeah, it was just the women just kept popping up for me. So I'm going with the year of the woman in 2021.